Hi, Leslie here with Thoughts at the End of a Red Pen. I come to you today talking about apathy. Apathy can be a real killer in the classroom, and it's something that teachers and students battle every day. It's not something that is easily overcome, and really there is not one true cause for apathy because every student, every situation, every classroom, and every school district is different. What's important to understand, though, is in order to have any success in overcoming apathy in the classroom, a teacher must relate to a student on a personal level. And every student is different, and some are harder to get along with than others. But it's vitally important that we form those connections with students so as to create that interpersonal relationship and form a lasting bond. Not necessarily a bond where they become your best friend, but a bond where they can then begin to relate the material and the lessons that you're trying to teach them to their everyday lives. And where I'm at in the high school classroom, it is extremely important that students understand that there is a relation between what they are learning in the classroom and what is going on in their daily lives, especially once they get out into the workforce. What they're going to be learning is not necessarily going to be used literally every day in their lives, but at some point in their life they're going to have to know math, they're going to have to be able to read, they're going to have to be able to write clearly, to communicate well, and to understand where a nation has been and where we are going and where the world has been and where it is going. No matter what job they're doing, it's extremely important for them to grasp that concept. So in my classroom, what I try to do is I try to form those relationships. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you just have to keep trying. Apathy is not derived from one cause. It's derived from many causes, and it really, again, just depends on the student. There are lots of things that various students are facing in their daily lives that we can't even begin to comprehend. Years ago when I was in school, apathy was not that big of a deal, and it didn't seem to start hitting public schools as hard as it is now until the early 2000s. And I'm not saying that it wasn't around before that, but the strength and the force of apathy in the classroom has intensified over the last decade or so. So it's really important that as teachers we understand where our students are coming from and where they might be headed, taking into consideration their socioeconomic backgrounds as well as their interests in school and outside of school. And if a student's attitude is poor and just non-compliant in general, it can cause a lot of issues in the classroom. So it's best to try to head off many of those issues to begin with. So apathy, like I said, can be a very bad thing in a classroom. And it's important that you as a teacher work to fight it wherever you see it as much as possible. No matter how demoralizing it can be for yourself and how difficult it might be, work together with your fellow staff, the teachers around you, and try to overcome it as much as you can for the student and for your own sanity. That's the best way to approach it. Form that relationship and try to make those connections as much as possible. Apathy, like I said, is not caused by one thing. Jim pointed out in his blog that that apathy in his mind is caused by electronics, and while that may be so, and I certainly agree with that, I like to add more to that. Apathy is caused by a generation who feels entitled, and the reason why it's hardest hit now and since the early 2000s is because we have reached this generation, this first generation of entitlement. And it's really a scary thing that we are dealing with as a nation, where students have been spoon-fed so much and have been given everything so much, so often, that they feel entitled to it from the get-go, and if they have to work for it, it's not going to happen. So this is something that we need to combat daily in the classroom and at home. Parents need to do this. Don't allow your kids to get away with even the littlest thing. Don't give them everything. Make them work for it. One of the things that my husband and I are doing with our own children is they're not just being given these major gifts like a bicycle, for example. They are going to have to work for those items. They are going to have to work for the things that they want that are not necessarily the things that they need. And that's because we don't want them to feel entitled. We see what is happening with this generation, and it's heartbreaking because we know where we came from as a nation, and what we're seeing now is not a very bright future, and it's a result of entitlement and a result of, well, not to get all political on you, but a result of failed government policies that are basically spoon-feeding the people everything that they need. So, to get away from politics with that, apathy needs to be conquered as much as possible. And there are a variety of ways that are listed in many published articles throughout the internet that you could definitely read very quickly if you are short on ideas. But I recommend you get together with your colleagues and talk it over. Parents, if you're struggling at home, get together with other parents and try to come up with solutions that will help your children not feel entitled and not be apathetic in anything in their lives. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this blog, and we hope you gain a lot of new ideas and information that you might not have had before. And we'll see you next week.